Yeah, it's great, man. The back and forth
Definitely.
is great. Their choice of what to drink and what will like supplement their conversation most correctly.
Yeah.
That whole
It's like
back and
wine
forth.
romanticizes the ambiance, right?
Yeah, they even quoted Tecum, I believe. Out of all spirits, only wine is suited to reminiscence. A good wine allows clarity and focus while still allowing a bit of comforting coloration of the memory. And yeah, the whole thing was like beer dulls a memory, brand sets it burning, but wine is the best for a sore heart's yearning. Did Kvothe write that?
So what
No, whatever.
I don't remember who said that,
Geox in it?
but
Yeah.
well, yeah. And then outside of that, I do like that Kvothe, finds it galling to not stand his round, so he buys him buys his own bottle, and they switch drinks, and they speak poetically when they're doing their little toast. So there's some kind of nice flourishes, but when he leaves the bar, then we go from a scene where we're learning a little information about Denna, and they're having a kind of good back and forth. It's kind of interesting, and then all of a sudden he leaves, and then bam, he gets assaulted by two dudes.
That's like immediately.
And yeah, and I like the aspect of it. He's like, is it because I've been gone from Tarbean for too long? I've grown comfortable. It's because I'm drunk, and he's kind of trying to analyze why he slipped up and let two dudes sneak up on him and snatch him off the street. But we get some good stuff when they do. So one particular part that always is interesting to me is when they pull him into the alley, and he goes, "We know it's him," the tall one said impatiently. "Let's just do this and have it over with. I'm cold. Like hell. Check it now, while he's close. We've lost him twice already. I'm not having another cock up like an Anilin." So what's interesting to me is they talk about, I'm not having another cock up like an Anilin. And that's where Denna goes when she separates from Kvothe. And the first time that they meet each other. When Kvothe goes to university, she goes to Anilin. And these guys are talking about, I don't want to have another cock up like an Anilin. I would be surprised if whatever that cock up is not related to Kvothe or Denna. I would be surprised. I don't know if you guys, when you come across that, if you guys thought anything of it about it, but I don't have a lot of good answers, but I have a lot of questions on it.
I thought simply because I know Denna went there, but if that's the case, then Ambrose wouldn't be behind this, right?
Correct.
That's
Or
interesting.
Someone else was behind the situation in Anilin, and Ambrose is behind this situation. It could be that as well. They're hired thugs.
Well,
So
I mean,
it
if a
doesn't
hired
necessarily mean the same person hired them in both situations. Could be two different people hired them in two different situations.
But there's no mention of Kvothe ever being an Anilin, right?
No, he was never in Anilin. So, here I'll run down some of the things that I it could be. It could be that Denna was, when she was with the group, her role was to lure Kvothe to Anilin. Maybe there was someone that's been after Kvothe this whole time. So in that scenario, then whoever hired these guys is not Ambrose, because this is before he met Ambrose. So in that scenario, maybe Denna was hired to
has a hair. She's got a hair on her.
No, that's interesting. This is like James Bond type thing where she's trying to lure him in, but then falls in love with him. This is total James Bond type stuff.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. It could. I would be surprised if that's the case, but it is a scenario that's a possibility when you think about that situation when they're talking about another cock up. Or it could be another scenario. Could be that, and Anilin, she talks about nothing good happened. Nothing unexpected, but nothing good. It could be that Denna is also an important figure. She's clearly important, obviously, for Kvothe's story, but it could be that she's important to other people's roles. Seems like her patron sees her as an important figure outside of Kvothe. And so it could be that someone tried to fucking take her out in Anilin and they fucked it up. So it could have been that she she was hunted in Anilin, so that could be a scenario as well.
Can I just stop you on that point? Because if that's the case, then whoever a patron is in that importance has to either have to do with their relationship and the two characters together, or that someone's been after Kvothe for that long and realized the connection between him and Denna.
I think what that suggests, what Dan's talking about, would, in the second theory, would suggest she has, like a bloodline, right? Like she's
okay.
I'm saying like she could be important in her own right.
That's what I mean.
It seems like she's important in her own right. It doesn't seem like her patron is necessarily interested in Kvothe, and she seems to, indicate when she's in Severin with him, when he's seeing the mayor, she's like, when they talk about her patron, and her patron like shits on all the men that chased after her, and he's like, what do they say about me? And she's like, oh, I never tell him about you, he doesn't know about you. And she's like, you're just to myself. It could be that he knows about Kvothe from other means, rather than that he knows about him by spying on her or something. But I don't get the feel through two books that her patron is really focused on Denna because of Kvothe. I think he's focused on Denna for Denna.
I like this.
Whether he knows Kvothe or not, I think that is a side issue. I think he's focused on Denna for Denna.
Is there any other mention of Denna being of royal bloodlines or anything like that?
No, there's no mention of that. Like, yeah, I would have brought that up. Yeah,
I kind of like
no mention of her. We don't know anything about her upbringing.
I kind of like the idea. I mean, I really like the idea that they're both like of the oldest bloodline. Like they go all the way back, and the Emir or whomever are aware of this, and someone's trying to. This is what the interference is. They're running interference on the two of them. And what's so intriguing about that to me is they don't. The idea that neither of them would possibly know that. We don't know if Denna does know that. Perhaps she does, and she's running away from it, which makes her a lot like Kvothe's mother, which we're getting a lot of parallels here, which, I mean, it's fucking great.
That's an interesting parallel, Tim.
No, but I like that. I like this idea. I like that. I haven't really thought about Denna. I mean, I've thought a lot about who Denna could be, what her background is, but it's so funny. We talk about it. Doesn't matter how many times, there's still more coming out. And I haven't thought about her really being royal lineage of the oldest. And I like that there's these different levels of that lineage, right? There's like Sim's family, but then there's Ambrose, and then there's the mayor, and then there's go all the way back. There's like, the Celatos Lanre bloodline. There's the Ruark bloodline. And that's what it seems like Kvothe is kind of at the peak of that bloodline. And then ironically called the Bloodless at the same time, right? So I like the idea that maybe Denna parallels that in Kvothe, like in her own form.
I tend to believe that Denna is important in her own right. I don't think she's just important because she's associated with Kvothe. It
seems like it's more than that.
Seems like the less likely scenario, given how much shit she's involved in as far as her patron. She's at the Mauthen Farm. She's in Severin. She's writing the song about Lanre and Lyra, or about Lanre at least. And so like it seems Dan, like she's important in her own right outside of Kvothe.
Hey Dan, now that you say that, she's a part of every one of the important things that Kvothe is a part of, only just before him. I hadn't noticed that before, but she's there right before him every time.
The Mauthen Farm, right? The Dracus,
and Mauthen Farm coming up.
I mean, a few of the aspects, she's there. But regardless of like when or why she's there, like she's in. There's important aspects of things she's doing that seem to stand outside of Kvothe, that it doesn't seem like she is working Kvothe or trying to manipulate him or trying to control him. It seems like someone's controlling her and steering her, and it seems like she's important outside of Kvothe. I don't think
No,
she's important because of Kvothe.
Hey,
That rings true
Hey,
to
Dan.
me. I just want to say that to me that I get that impression from everything compiled out of the two books of both their character arcs. They interlace and everything, but yeah, I it seems like the threats to Denna seem to be independent of Kvothe, as far as I can tell.
so now and now that you say it, Dan, and now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of a time that Kvothe meets Denna where she wasn't there before he was.
Well,
Like
like
in
in
each scene,
Imre,
He goes
well,
and
like
finds
in
her there. She never.
well, like in Imre, like at the Aeolian, like she had been in Anilin, and so she came back. Like the two, two of the big ones, obviously, are
She may have showed up at
she's
Anchors, we
already
don't
at the
know.
Mauthen Farm before he is. She seemingly, I don't know if she's in Severin before him or not. I mean, there's no
We don't know
clear
that,
indication. Like she could have been there just before him or just after him. There's no clear indication one way or the other. And then
She is where she meet the mayor at? She meets the mayor before him, right?
no,
No.
she does
They
not
meet
meet
in
the
the
mayor.
town.
Oh, no,
She
no.
never meets the mayor.
No, I'm thinking of her patron.
The there's a time at Anchor, just to tease him out. There's a time at Anchors when he's playing and he sees her, and it seems like I got the impression he was there first, but there's no hard evidence to show that. But it seemed like he was
Well,
playing.
I mean,
and then saw her in the
I
crowd.
don't think there's like any I don't think there's plenty of situations where he's somewhere first. He's in Imre long before her. Like after he goes to university, she goes to Anilin. He's there for fucking 6 months where she's not there, and then she just shows up. So I don't think there's anything to read into like that he's showing up after her. Like
she's
I don't
drawing
think
him.
there's like anything to like puzzle out there. But I do think that there what you could puzzle out is like the Mauthen Farm, which we'll get into in the next episode. But like the fact that he gets to the Mauthen Farm and she's already there, it's written in a way where it seems very fucking clear that she was not there because of Kvothe. Like
Yeah, dude, she's left.
she
She's
was
the only
shocked.
survivor.
She was just like we'll
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about that. Like that'll come up in this episode. But she's shocked to see him. So I don't get the impression that she's there for him, but she's there at a massively important event in these two books, and it seems like she was there outside of Kvothe being any part of the reason. So it seems like she's important in her own right. I don't think like she's only important in respect to Kvothe. Meaning like I don't think that she's trying to manipulate him or trying to work him or someone's trying to use Denna to fuck with Kvothe. I think she's important outside of Kvothe. If Kvothe didn't exist, I still think she would be important.
Well, she's the only survivor at a wedding where 100 people were slaughtered by the Chandrian. Kvothe
Allegedly.
was the only survivor for his family and his troop, but comparatively, times 10 or so. You know.
Yeah,
so you're
and
right.
she
You're
was
right.
brought,
That was a huge
brought
event.
there where it clearly seemed like she was spying on that wedding. She was not. She didn't know that was her purpose, but it seems clear
Yeah, it seemed like-
that's what her purpose was from her patron.
It seemed like her patron, at least knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Or no, it's certain.
It's
that her patron knew what was
well,
going to happen.
it's not certain, but it's insinuated that he knew. It's not certain,
Okay.
but it's definitely insinuated.
We're not there yet. And then he beats her up again, and it seems though that he beat her up before she went there, right?
No.
She's got a bruise set on her face,
It was
separate from her cut.
No, it was after the fact. He beat her up, and he
His
I mean, we'll get
justification
into
was
that,
if you're
but
going to
like
be
it was
surviving.
because
Yeah.
she's the only survivor. She can't go back into town looking like nothing happened, so that's
Yeah.
why he did it. And that was the first time that he hit her. So no,
I think he's
he
also-
had not hit her
Oh,
before
yeah.
that.
I think he's also into it. He just found a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
speculating, but makes sense.
No, I mean, there's a lot of S&M. There's a lot of S&M in the books that is just kind of hidden underneath.
Yeah, it's
I thought in
underlying.
order for it to be S&M, it had to be consensual.
Yeah, it is. She asked for it, so it was
Oh,
consensual. She literally asked for it. He made her ask for it, so she literally asked for it.
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah. Okay, I'm teetering on offending a lot of people, but yeah,
and
it's.
then-
Well, I was just gonna say he does tell Denna about the fishery fire. I don't know if I'm skipping past
Yeah.
what Dan was talking about, but
No, that's what I was going to bring up there.
yeah,
So yeah,
that was pretty cool.
yeah, he gets out his little heroic story.
Yeah,
I can see. I mean, I believed him when he said, "Yeah, it was that," but also because I wanted to make sure she knew that I didn't just, stand her up.
Yeah, no, for sure,
I can see that. Yeah,
yeah, he's like
for sure. That was
and the added bonus was, she gets to know that, you saved that girl.
Yeah, he says
Yeah.
he was. He's
You are a
he's
hero.
young and male and desperately wanted to impress her as well, but also he missed the lunch due to circumstances that he could not control.
Yeah, and then you get Denna really getting inebriated, and she's like, "You have the sweetest face. It's like the perfect kitchen."
It's
Yeah,
so great.
You fucking, and he's like, how's your breathing? She's like, normal, tight, but normal. My heart beat a little faster at that. What do you mean by that? I have trouble breathing, she said. My chest gets tight sometimes. It's like breathing through pudding. She laughed. Did I say pudding? I meant molasses, like a sweet molasses pudding. And then, I need to listen to your breathing, I said, but I don't have any tools here, so if you could unbutton your shirt a little, I need to press my ear against your chest. Denna rolled her eyes and unbuttoned more of her shirt than was altogether necessary. Now that one is entirely new, she said archly, sounding more for a moment like her normal self. I've never heard anyone try that before. And then I like this part when he's like, it's slow but strong, I said. It's a good heart. Is it saying anything? Nothing I can hear, I said. Listen harder. And then he just like rolls right over that, and like she's telling, she's trying to tell him like, I love you. And he just rolls right over it. And he's just like, take a few deep breaths and don't talk. I need to listen to your breathing. And then she's like, she exhaled and I felt her breath warm against the air rushed in and I felt one of her breasts pressing against my arm. She exhaled and I felt her breath warm against the back of my neck. Goose flesh broke all over my body. I could picture Arwell's disapproving stare. And I like that, she's trying to fucking tell him she loves him and he's getting fucking super horny. Fucking because her breast touched his arm and she breathed on the back of his neck.
It kind of felt like that was all on purpose. Denna totally doing that shit on purpose.
Yes, and then
Did you get that?
yes,
It could have been.
it seemed like it to me. And then
That's way I took.
but
it.
then what we also get later is like she's like, when she's high as shit, she's basically like, yeah, I know you don't look at me this way. She's kind of telling him like, dude, you're kind of fucking up. Like you're kind of putting it to the place where it's like, I'm gonna basically give up and not give a shit because you make no move whatsoever. And it's like she's making these moves and he never does anything. So I don't know. It feeds towards that, which that's also been laid out from the beginning with them.
That whole section, I think it's important in a few regards. Like the first part was, I had pneumonia when I was just a tiny baby, Denna said with no particular inflection. That's why my lungs aren't good. It's horrible not being able to breathe sometime. Denna's eyes were half closed as she continued, almost as if she were talking to herself. I stopped breathing for 2 minutes and died. Sometimes I wonder if this isn't some sort of mistake, if I should be dead. But if it isn't a mistake, I have to be here for a reason. But if there is a reason, I don't know what that reason is. That's hugely important.
Yeah.
For one, because a lot of people think she could be an angel or she could be the Chandrian. I think that throws a huge pebble in that fucking theory, is the fact that when she was a baby, she got pneumonia and she died for a second. She's clearly not like an immortal. She's not immortal like a Taylu or a Haliax or any of these characters like Florian. These are immortal beings. She is not immortal. She almost died of pneumonia as a baby. So to me, that rules out the possibility of her being one of these immortal characters.
It's also pretty great just in the sense of what it sets up, but it's also just to like theme period for any human beings. You know, trying to figure. It's one of the deep questions that we deal with. What is it that I'm here for? Why am I still here? Especially someone that almost lost their life. Why am I still here? Why didn't I die? That sort of thing. But then it does also feed into the first thing he ever said to her. I was just wondering why you're here. Those 7 words again. And, you know, and she's like, that's what I've been wondering the same time for so long. It's kind of like that, you know, feeds into her like, dude, you had me at fucking hello type situation. Because he always goes like, he's driving right at her even when he doesn't know he is. Which is what we've talked about.
Yeah.
He's always killing it, and then he just doubts himself so far that he's just even beyond friend zone.
This part, and in Severin, but this part specifically, it's very frustrating because it's clear her inhibitions are down and that she is revealing how she truly feels. Like when she's like, you know, you always know where you're doing. Which is funny when the way she says that, but then she's like, you're important with your green eyes looking at me like I mean something. It's okay that you have better things to do. It's enough that I get you sometimes, once in a while. I know I'm lucky for that, to get you just a little. I know you don't think of me, she trailed off. It's best to humor people in delirium, lest they turn violent. I think of you all the time, Denna. I said, don't patronize me, she said crossly. Then her tone softened again. You don't think of me like that. That's fine. But if you're cold too, you could come over here and put your arms around me, just a little. And then she's like, you're so gentle, you never push. She trailed off again, resting more heavily against my chest. Then she roused herself. You could, you know, push more, just a little. And then you get when he's hanging on to her, he's like, this was the best moment of my life. And then when she removed the blanket, put it around him, and then they laid, curled up, spooned together, he's like, no. Take that back. This is the best moment of my life.
Yeah,
it's crazy though, man.
Right there.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, man, he's so obsessed with not being that guy, like that he won't even like share the moment with her. You know, he won't even like. She's being very frank with him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just humoring her." It's like, I mean, she's trying to fucking like tell you what the real deal is without, all their bullshit they always have going back and forth. And in his mind, he's so playing doctor and playing, drug spotter over here, like I was saying before, that he won't even have like the real emotional, but like,
he's not treating it as if she is telling him the truth.
He's not taking her seriously.
He's like, oh, this is drug talk. Like, no, yeah, but that's because her inhibition is down. It's still true.
Yeah,
still real. Just like she told you she can't breathe, that shit's real. Just like she told you Master Ash beat her ass, that shit's real.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean about him always missing the signals. These are fucking as blatantly clear as they can be.
He didn't miss the signal with Master Ash. He didn't miss the signal with her breathing. He understood those were real things. Yes, the only thing he like, and that is like his like conscious fucking.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. He gets in his own way. He does it with Fella. He does it with every time there's a clear sign. Although he notices with Fella what's going on, but every time there's a clear sign coming from Denna, he's got this agenda in his mind that gets in the way. And that was kind of one of the things that I continuously see with Kvothe is that when he doesn't think as much, when he follows his instincts, things work out better for him. When he's got this agenda in his mind that he's playing a role, because he's playing a role here as, the honorable doctor.
But he is so convinced that no one would want to be with him that if someone says they want to be with him, he thinks it's preposterous. But
she says the same thing.
He wanted it to be.
She says the same thing here about her in his eyes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a very that's their similar dynamic. But like Kvothe, when it was the Chandrian, and he thought it was the Chandrian was responsible, and then Denna was like explained, like, no, it couldn't be the Chandrian. He gave it up immediately. But like with when people tell him, "Hey, fella's really into you," it's like, "Nah, fuck, she's not into me. She's just friendly." Or like Denna clearly likes you, and you're clearly in love with her, and he's like, "Nah,
he's always got an
that's not
excuse."
it. It's not it."
It's almost like
he can't, like in that situation, like he normally he could step back and he can listen to people and be like, "Yeah, you're right," but on just that one issue, like his self-esteem is just completely dominating.
It's really strange too, because the more she lays it on thick, the more he does like this cognitive obliviousness. Where he knows that he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows that he's doing it. He's doing it on purpose. He's acknowledging that he's doing it by saying, "Well, you got to humor her because she's messed up," or she's messing around in the creek, and he's like, "Well, I made sure that I was way far away because when it's you don't necessarily you don't have to be that guy. You don't have to be somebody who's going to do something that's wrong, but you could at least take part in the acknowledgement that she's telling you some hard truths that she is embarrassed about saying otherwise, but she's obviously into you. Acknowledge it, Kvothe. Acknowledge it."
I mean, shit. Yeah, Sim and Will. They're like, she's coming to look for you. She finds you, and oh no, and he's always got an excuse. He's always got a reason behind
It's weird.
it. And it's something about this also almost and I brought this up last time, but it almost made me feel like when he disengages, like again when he's up there with, and I know he's in a different state, but in this actually happened quite recently. He's up there with Elodin on the roof, and Elodin's like trying to like really get in and tell him some real secretive, type of enlightening shit, and he's just like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go." Like he just completely doesn't listen. Like he's disengaged. His mind just switches off. And I think Dan's right though. I think the way to probably to look at it or to digest it is in the vein of his self-esteem's so freaking low he can't imagine anyone would actually want him. Which is such a strange. It's a strange, and I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's such a strange place for his personality to be in because of his accomplishments, because of his abilities, because of all the traits that he knows he has, and the cockiness even that he has in certain situations. But when it comes to women, man,
and even more
there,
so
bro.
because she's telling him point blank at this point.
Yeah, it's like he's cut. It's like there's a portion of himself that is cut off from the world, and probably part of that's self-defense. He can't allow someone that close, And the ones that get,
I don't think that's it, because if Denna just out and out fucking told him dead sober, like, "I want to be with you, be with me," he would fucking jump at the chance.
No, but
so I don't think it's a matter of he can't let Denna close. It's he is not willing to risk being wrong.
No, but that's what I mean.
And he thinks he is wrong.
But that's what I mean. It's that ultimate vulnerability. He's not allowing it. He gets there with Ari somewhat. He kind of
he's not willing to make the first move with Denna. He's not willing to make the first move.
Well,
but if she made the first move,
she's making some moves.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a reason. He has reason to doubt it because she is on fucking drugs and she's not telling him this shit. But like, I mean, there are hints, but they're subtle hints. I mean, they're
complicated.
She's not sitting there saying, "I want to be with you."
No, but
be with me. But if she said that, he would fucking jump at the chance.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And what's so genius about the way Rothfuss is doing it, why it's frustrating, is they are complicated. When it's delivered, it's complicated by she's on drugs now. So he's got to take it with grains of salt, right? Like everything, anytime these things come in, he has a reason to doubt in some way, shape, or form. So to have that be complicated it's great. It makes it more complicated for us. That builds in what you guys don't like, which is the tension, right? That keeps you reading, man.
Yeah, then you get the reveal that fucking Master Ash fucking laid the fucking beat down on her, and I like this is where like there's it sets up that there's got to be a violent interaction between Kvothe and her patron. I think it sets it in stone here, just with like when he hears that fucking Master Ash beat her, just the pure rage and the wanting to just throttle this fucking dude. And it comes out later too, where he's like, if I ever fucking see this dude, I will fucking kill him. But he's like, a man who could do that to you, he's not worth your time, not one moment of it. It's not a matter of him being only half a loaf, he's rotten through. You deserve better. Who knows what I deserve, she said. He's not my best loaf, he's it. Him or hungry. You have other options, I said, then stalled, thinking of my conversation with Diak. I got you, she said dreamily. I could hear the warm, sleepy smile in her voice, like a child tucked into bed. Will you be my dark-eyed Prince Gallant, protect me from pigs, sing to me, whisk me away to tall trees? She trailed off to nothing. I will, I said, but I could tell by the heavy weight of her against my arm that she had finally fallen asleep.
Well, there's your invitation you were asking for, bro. There it is.
Yeah.
That you just brought up. I mean, plain as day. Will you be my Prince Gallant? Will you ride me like, wait, is that what she was saying?
It's like, it's one of those things where like he can't step out of himself and see what's going on. It's obvious to anybody else around. It's obvious to us as readers. It's obvious to Will and Sim. It's obvious to Fella. It's obvious to anybody who sees them together or hears about them. Like they understand what's going on. But normally you see in other situations that Kvothe can, if someone points it out to him, he can step back and be like, yeah, you're right. But not with this. Not with his valuation of himself. Like that is not fucking changing. He does not see himself as worthy of, being someone's partner, being loved long term.
Yeah,
he can barely accept it from his friends. Like when his friends do something nice for him, he breaks into fucking tears. He can just he struggles with his self-worth as a partner, as a friend, or any of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious too.
Yeah, he's got some issues, bro. Maybe he does need some Denna resin.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to loosen up.
Hard streets of Tarbean will do it to you, man.
They needed to get a little fucking dinnered out together.
Yeah, that might have worked out better.
We also get one of the big mysteries, one of the mysteries that I don't have much of an answer to, but it's clearly a pivotal mystery as far as Denna's concerned, is when he scoops her up and he brings her down, and as he's setting her down, he jostles her, and then she starts jostling awake a little bit, and he's like, Denna? And she responds, Mauthen. She muttered around a mouthful of sleep, her eyes barely moving under her lids. That's got to be significant. What does Mauthen mean? M-O-T-E-T-H. That's got to hold some significance. So it could be something where she slurred mother. It could be that. It could be that she was slurring Kvothe's name and it came out as Mauthen. I don't think that's likely. I think it's a foreign language. I think it's a key to who Denna is. I think if we learn what Mauthen means or who Mauthen is, it's going to reveal what the fuck's up with Denna's past. I think it's a pivotal thing we need an answer to, is what the fuck does Mauthen mean? I
was just going to say, I think you're right that she slurred it, and I think she was saying Hotep Jesus.
Yeah.
Gotta be it.
She just left off the Jesus.
Yep.
Mothef. Huh?
Gotta be it.
Yep. Obscure podcaster reference. What she was going with.
Maybe three.
Nah, yeah, I definitely.
And me and Dan were two of them.
This is definitely. Yeah. There's definitely a note I made. I didn't expect you to have an answer to it, but it was definitely a note I made where I'm just like, all right, this is massive. Because it has to be, given how little we know about Denna's history and the state she's in.
Well, there's, like, what I looked at is what has that ETH in it. Like, you have the Lithani, you have Metheglin, you have the Omethi, the river by the Aeolian is the Omethi River. And then you have the Lithani, you have Aeth, you have Wraith, you have Sathan, which is one who takes the red, who becomes.
I get the feeling she's talking about an individual, right?
Could be, but
it feels like that.
It also could be. It also could just be a word. There's multiple, like, and you have Vachette calls Kvothe a twiggly little skeeth. There's Skaith te Rata Van. It's a swear Kvothe uses towards Denna's suitor, Kaelin, the lord that we're gonna meet here shortly. He's the one that gives her the harp.
The little poet.
He's the one that mocks Kvothe for playing the trooper's lute when he's in the Aeolian, and that's the time. I think this is in the second book when Kvothe plays the trick on the audience, where he plays like the very difficult song, makes it look real simple, and then plays the real simple song, makes it look like the hardest song ever. That was when she brought Kellen, and so he said Skaith, and referring to him. And then there was also Soketh K Siaru Krima Teth 2. How well do you speak Siaru? But that's also the Sohi Keth, and the Krima Teth has also got these TETH letters in it. The ETH is it comes up a lot in the foreign languages. It's I don't know what you call the suffix. I guess it's a suffix of a lot of the foreign languages.
Not just Siaru. It's there's you named like 2 or 3 different ones, didn't you? There was
like the Adem, and there was Siaru, and then there was something else that I don't know what it is at all.
The last example you gave sounded like the closest to me was the Siaru example you just gave. But I mean, it doesn't sound like we have conclusions. To me, it feels like, because of the situation, because of the state she's in, it feels like it's a name. But I don't think it would be her patron. She's not that close to her patron. It feels like it would be like someone who is extraordinarily close to her, like a father figure, a mother figure, a sibling, something like that, a lover, something.
Some people think that it's like you know, when they're in the water together, and she tells her little story about the stone, when she's like asking Kvothe to listen to the stone, and he's like, what's the stone saying? She tells a little story there, and it's interpreted 2 ways. It's interpreted as her telling a story of the first person that she loved, who kind of just tossed her away, and that's why she's, you know, the way she is because she was tossed away with the first person she loved. Or it could be interpreted as she's talking about Kvothe, and it could be about, like, you know, they were getting so close, and then they had their spat, and then he tossed her away like she was nothing. And so it's interpreted multiple ways. I don't think she's talking about like her first love, because that just it doesn't seem like where the story is going, is that she's hung up on her first love.
That story, Dan? I don't recall it.
I'd have to look it up. I mean, we'll come across it. They're in the water together, and she talks about there's a story with the stone. The story is that it comes across as she's talking about, you know, having feelings for someone and then just being tossed away.
I do recall, I mean, one of the main things that we have her backstory with is that ring is very meaningful to her. It feels like that ring was given to her, or is an heirloom from someone that meant something, meant a lot to her. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I'm just trying to pull at things that we know about her. Not that that's going to give us an answer, but yeah, I think this, whatever Moteth is, whatever that ends up meaning, yeah, is going to have a connection to really figuring out who she is, what makes her tick, what has, what catalyst put her in the position of where Kvothe finds her. originally.
Yeah, where she's from, who she is, what happened. Like, there's something significant there. It's not in there just blindly. There's not enough information that I've seen to figure it out, but it's clear that that's important.
What if it means, is it time to get up?
Yep. That's it. You figured it
Just
out.
a word for...
Yeah, like
what if it's...
Snooze. Hit
Fuck
the
off or
snooze.
something.
How about
like
this?
that.
How about this? How about this? It's Faye talk for, is it time for our morning meeting? Her Jack in the Box, stuff bleeding through. Yeah. She's just always like, wait, is it time? Is it time to get the troops together and talk about, the sales today?
It's like drop the hash browns or put the eggs on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Drop the hash browns. There it is. Yeah. That's it.
So
that's it, man.
You got any more brain busters, Dan?
Yeah, it's Faye for fucking drop the hash browns in the fryer.
It's always on her mind, man. That's why she can't sleep. She's
hash browns. What?
You're gonna burn them.
Hash browns, burger, French fries, double order.
No mustard. No mustard.
Oh man! And then
Silk lined.
He goes and he starts making his goes on his apology tour, and Ari kind of reproaches him. She says she reproached me gently for not coming to visit her, and he's like, most importantly, were Will and Sim. They had heard rumors of a student attacked in an alley. Given Ambrose's smugger than usual expression of late, they expected I'd run out of town, or at worst, that I was weighted down with rocks at the bottom of the Omethi. They were the only ones that got a real explanation of what happened. Though I didn't tell them the entire truth about why I was interested in the Chandrian, I did tell them the whole story and showed them the scale. They were appropriately amazed, though they did tell me in plain terms that next time I would leave a note for them where there would be hell to pay. And I looked for Denna, hoping to make my most important explanation of all, but as always, looking did no good. And then, comes in the next chapter, opens up with, in the end, I found Denna as I always do, through pure accident. So he comes up on her and he stumbles into her. One thing of note that when he does stumble into her, he says, I'd remembered the shape of her eyes, but not the weight of them, their darkness, but not their depth. Her closeness pressed the breath out of my chest as if suddenly I'd been thrust deep underwater. The only people that they mention of having eyes, that in a significant way like that, it tends to be the Kvothe and Elodin and powerful people. And so it's interesting that they do bring that up in regard to her.
Yeah,
I don't know that it means anything necessarily, but it's noteworthy because of when they do mention eyes.
I keep getting the feeling that Denna is, she has an important lineage. Because, and I don't mean just important to the royalty of the world. I mean important to like Kvothe's level, where she has some innate power that's born in because of things like that. In particular, things like that.
Yeah, and the Mauthen, leaving that out there where she says that word and we don't know what that means. There's obviously something significant to her past that we need to know to really understand who she is and what
all
the
the nightmares.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know we've talked about it, but the fact that she seems to have this knowledge of how people act in many situations, even she seems to have almost an elegance about her that would hint at a royal lineage or a history of being in the higher status in this world. At least her family was or something. So yeah, something crazy tragic had to have happened or she bailed. But yeah, I mean, obviously she wouldn't do that unless it was a pretty tragic event in itself. So yeah, there's some real skeletons back there.
So I'll say that this brief description, it does kind of allude to her being more than human, or at least special. It kind of says, that she, the depth of her eyes, that there's something magical about it, but also at the same time, you can take it as Kvothe just being madly in love with this girl, and a 16-year-old kid describing how he feels about somebody.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling of a girl that you're, when you're young and you're into her and she does something playful, like just touches your chest with her hand, and it's like, oh, it gives you that feeling that take your breath away is one way of describing it.
So always that happens in reverse for me. Like the girl touches me and she gets weak in the knees.
Jesus.
She faints.
Yeah.
I will say that whole description that whole description though does, it's very much he is ridiculously into her, but then she is with him. I mean, her reaction too.
He gets lost in her eyes too. In another part when he tells her like "love me," when he means to say it playfully or something, but then he like looks in her eyes and then he says it, and he says it too seriously and puts too much weight into it because he looked into her eyes and got kind of fucking caught up in them. So there's a couple mentions of her eyes tripping him up. And it happens a lot with the Loden. I mean, it's going to happen here, coming up. So you might be deeply in love with the Loden and not know it too.
It is interesting how quickly they go right back into the way things were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, and I know there's another guy there. And actually, I love that when she introduces him, Kvothe's like, shit, I didn't even know there was a dude there. Like, I kind of wish she would have said that. Oh, I didn't even see you.
Yeah.
Like how that would have played for this guy.
I like the nonverbals that they actually, him and Denna actually communicate that it's not Master Ash without saying a word. They know exactly one to the other what the other one is saying or asking.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. I mean, they go right back into the way they used to be, where it's like they're talking about a story, but that story isn't really what they're really talking about. And it's all that playfulness back and forth that we've seen with them a million times. It's just they go right back into it the next time they see each other.
Yeah, and we learn Lanre. He's tall and lean, well-muscled, well-dressed, and well-bred. He had a jawline like a mason would have. He had a jawline a mason would have been proud, and straight white teeth. He looked like Prince Gallant out of a storybook. He reeked of money. So, she asked if Kvothe was going to be her Prince Gallant, and fucking Lanre fucking stepped up and filled the role for him. And then, yeah, I mean, it just shows you like how adept Denna is at moving through the world, that she can go from just being dead broke with nothing to now she's like fucking hooked up, shacking up with some rich fucking noble who's like taking her horseback riding and all this kind of shit. She can just like, she's not going to be in Kvothe's situation where he was on the streets in Tarbean and there for living in the gutters for 3 years. This girl can be fucking penniless and be fucking, on a rich noble's arm the next day. So she is very adept at moving through the world.
Yeah, she definitely has her game together, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then, so, he agrees to meet Denna later on, tells her, lets her know that he killed the dragon, but lost the treasure and the girl, and they agree to meet each other later on, and then it moves into the town. So you got the boys are back in town. They're hanging tough. And I love when he starts talking about Will and Sim giving him advice. And he's like, the compassion I appreciated, but the advice was worse than useless. They urged me towards the truth, told me to open my heart to her, to pursue her, write her poetry, send her roses. They didn't know her. But I love that aspect of it, is like they got the fucking high school romance fucking advice. Like, yeah, fucking make her a mixtape.
Write her a note and tell her how much you love her. Tell her how you feel.
Make her miss mixtape.
Fucking just terrible, fucking stupid nerd advice.
Well, maybe it would have worked. Not the roses, obviously, but
make the move. Yeah, don't make their move, but make a move, a better move.
Yeah.
Don't
do
be
your
a huge
Kvothe
fucking
thing.
nerd.
Yeah, do like your move. First of all, take the cloak off. I know that's what you think is cool, but take that off, and then do your move, which would be.
Oh, see, he drops that cloak. She will make the move. She'll be like, finally, you're becoming a man. I've been waiting for this day.
But yeah, he goes as far as saying, I will not be one of the 100 cow-eyed suitors who go mooning after her like love-struck sheep. But I like Sim's whole thing where it's like, I just don't understand what you see in her, man. Like, I know she's charming, fascinating, and all that, but she seems rather cruel. And it's great. I love Kvothe's reaction of, yeah, that's exactly what she is. It is that she's cruel. And they're back and forth about that, where it's like,
yeah,
what? No, you're not going to defend her? And he's like, well, no, cruel is the word, but I don't think you're saying cruel and thinking, but I think you are saying cruel and thinking something else. Denna is not wicked or mean or spiteful. She is cruel.
I love Sim's response. He's like, I think she might be some of those other things and cruel as well.
I think you're blinded by the light here, bro. Yeah. I think you got those, you got those goggles on, bro.
What Kvothe is saying about it is how I'd characterize, like, saying that somebody's cold. It's like, cold and calculating. It's separating your emotion from your logical side and doing the things that you have to do emotionlessly.
Well, I don't know that I would say like she's cold and calculating. It's just like her by her very nature, the life that she has, to try to tie her down is a mistake, so that when someone tries to tie her down, it's going to blow up in their face because her nature is going to rear its head and she's going to fucking get the fuck out of there. And so I don't think it's like that she's cold and calculating. It's just who she is, and
cruel?
They don't. I agree.
It's read as cruel.
She is
how she treats others.
What happens to these guys, like they get fucking heartbroken and shit, is cruel in the sense that he means.
Yeah.
But I think the reason for it is not that she's just like cold and calculating. I think it's just that she's not going to be a girl that gets pinned down. Like I've said, if Kvothe approached her and like be a partner in crime with me, I think that's the way you approach a girl like Denna. I'm not here to take care of you. I'm not here to fucking, put you underneath me where you're reliant upon me, but we could go fucking hand in hand and fucking do this shit together and be partners. I think that's the way to approach her, and no one approaches her like that. They all approach her like she's some fucking weak, wounded animal that they need to fucking, nurse back to health. And when they do that, her nature fucking rears its head and she gets the fuck out of there when they try to pin her down.
To Fitz's question, though, I think the Kvothe's statement's perfect. If a storm blows down your house or breaks a tree, you don't say the storm was mean. It was cruel. It acted according to its nature, and something unfortunately was hurt. The same is true of Denna. So yeah, he's just, again, it's just her nature. That's her way. But again, what I find quite vexing is that paragraph about her being broken up at the end of it. Why is she hurt? Because it seems like if she's this storm, she's this wild thing that just, in a way sort of runs roughshod over these dudes and leaves them wanting. Why is she broken up at the end of it? Is it just that, well, she can't find someone that she wants to be with, or she can't just make it work in the way that she wants? Is it all of these guys are trying to do what Dan was just saying, which is, I'm going to provide for you, I'm going to take care of you, and she doesn't want that? So is it the fact that she can't get something like this to work that she's broken up about? Is it the fact that she's intentionally hurting these people, but she doesn't want to? So like she's playing a role? I don't know. That paragraph in itself really kind of, it deepens the whole situation for me, to try to then, I don't know what the word is, sort of come to grips with what exactly is going on with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like he has a very good grasp of why she turns away, the dude she turns away, but he just doesn't understand what it would take to fucking get her, keep her.
I guess what I'm saying is it's hard to reconcile why she's broken up about it. I mean, is she broken up because she really wants Kvothe? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like that. It more seems like it feels like she feels bad for laying waste to these people's, emotions. I mean, that's what that reads as to me.
She's sad about. I think she's haunted by her past. She can't even fucking go to sleep without fucking having nightmares. She's haunted.
Yeah, something crazy happened.
I think that's. Yeah, I think it's her past. I'm very very much enjoying the just considering the ins and outs of this character. She's very interesting, and we have so little to go off of except for how she acts and the few things that Kvothe says to describe her. But it opens up to kind of using your imagination about what might have happened in her past, how her story parallels Kvothe, and what exactly she's going through. Down to as much as how much does she really want to be with Kvothe, and if Kvothe did take that chance, would she act like a lot of young women do, girls, where they want something until they have it. I shouldn't say girls because everybody's kind of like this, but I've found that playing kind of the hard to get oftentimes worked with women. But then once you said, okay, well, let's go for this, then they're like, and went cold because they got what they wanted, and now they don't want it anymore.
No, I'm 100% like that. I mean, I've always been like that with. I'm just serious. Like there's been girls like I've told Tim like I'm infatuated with this girl, but I'm fairly certain that once I have her, I won't want her anymore. And then it'll happen. The fucking as soon as as soon as the walls are down, then it's like, yep, I was right. That was just pure infatuation. Now that I've fucking broken that wall down, this was not what I wanted at all. And then I'm like, how the fuck do I get out of this after I fucking did all that work to pursue it, without being just a total asshole?
It's a really fascinating, sort of biochemical equation that we have within us. You know what I'm saying? Just what we talked about before, that instance where when you're trying to get with the girl, and then the first time you sleep together, or you're in a bed together and she's sleeping on you, you're like, I'm fine, even though my whole side is asleep. But then a week later, you're like, get the fuck off of me. Can I get out of here now? Maybe not that soon, but still, it's an interesting biochemical thing that happens within us, where it gradually changes over time to a different.
What always trips me up is I can feel the emotions, and I can also recognize that I'm feeling the emotions, and the emotions might not be real, but I'm still ruled by the emotions. So it's I can logically think it through and understand that my emotions might be misleading me, but I still can't turn off the emotions. And so it's it's a weird dynamic of being able to kind of step outside yourself and talk to yourself from an outside perspective, but you're still ruled by your emotions in those scenarios, and there's not much you can do about it.
Actually, me and Tim have been talking about how we needed to talk to you about how much you're ruled by your emotions, and you need to really dial it back a little bit, Dan.
I have good news for you. The next operating system you're going to upload totally takes care of that, so don't worry about it. It's coming.
All the emotional bugs, Dan, you're going to be living on easy street.
It's always been my biggest problem, is I'm just very, very emotional.
But yeah, I mean, again, I mean, well, so what I was going to say was Rothfuss does a tremendous job for us in book 2. Spoilers included here. I mean, he gives us more about her. He gives us that conversation with the girl that we get to eavesdrop on, that Kvothe eavesdrops on, and it gives us so much more about her without giving us the entire story. Again, we get little hints at what she's been through, but we still don't know where she's from, what her family life was like, what happened. All that stuff is still in the dark. We just know what part of the path that's got her to where she is now, and part of the depths that she's had to go to, and how calloused she is emotionally about it, and delivering that information to somebody else who's about to go through something similar. So the way Rothfuss does it is fucking great, man. He knows these characters so well, and he's so judicious with giving us the information about them. And he managed in the 2 books, he's managed Kvothe and Denna so well. It doesn't surprise me it's taken so long to get the 3rd book out, because if you're going to keep that delicate balance going and try to culminate everything else along with it without breaking that apart, plus fill those holes,
Well, and it's the same thing that we've been saying, that dance that he does around it, where he only lets you in on the character in the way that they act. He doesn't, or the things that they do. He doesn't, spell it out for you in a description of the way that people are. He spells it out in the way that they walk, the way that they react to things.
I like too the way it kind of ends after he has this conversation with them. He tears off her name from the letter she wrote him, folds it up, and does basically a magic 8-ball, but he throws it out into the wind, and he's just sitting there waiting for his answer, and it's just teasing him yeah, oh no, maybe, whoa, no, yes, and it just fucking hangs out there and never fucking goes one way or another, never fucking picks a direction for him. So he's just left in limbo without fucking he can't even get a magic 8-ball answer. It's it fucking just the thing keeps popping up, but it's just the corner edge that keeps hitting the front. Fucking is weighted wrong.
I had 2 things. The Celis vines. So apparently Kvothe has planted Celis flowers in homage.
Which was Denna's. Yeah, an homage.
Yeah, which actually I'd forgotten about that. That's in there. I didn't remember to write that note because I did want to mention that, because the fact that he does have the Celis flowers there, it makes me believe that whatever happened with Denna it's not going to be that she betrays him, or she's been manipulating him or misleading him or screwed him over somehow, because his remembrance of her is too fond, and the fact that he even planted Celis flowers makes me think that the likelihood that she dies is greater, but not that she is a hidden bad guy.
Yeah, he doesn't reference her with any disdain whatsoever, and you would think that he would, if that's what happened. And he talks about, there is talk of betrayal, and he is betrayed by somebody apparently that was close to him. But yeah, it doesn't seem like that's the route that it goes. It does feel like she's going to be sacrificed, or the relationship is going to be sacrificed in some way. So I don't know. But yeah, the Celis vines help push in that same direction, where it doesn't seem like he has hurt or disdain towards her.
Yeah, and the Celis flowers make me think she's either dead or she is just gone. She's in the Fae or somewhere out of reach that he can't. I feel like he can't get to her. He's not going to see her again.
I feel like she's gone. I don't feel like she's dead, but I get part of that's probably my wanting. I don't want her to be dead, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe maybe she's just now she's taking her job seriously in the Fae now, and she's just
maybe.
She opened up a 6th and 7th Jack in the Box franchise, and she just can't. She can't go back anymore. She doesn't have the time.
She probably hired Braden. Probably hired on a good 30 people that she's got to take care of. She's got to manage the 401ks. She's got a lot on her plate, dude. She got a lot that she's trying to handle.
Did they start a 401k program?
Braden passes away, and he left the entire Jack in the Box, the corporation in her hands.
I love picturing her like at the end of her nights with the uniform, but like the corporate uniform, but still what you'd wear. And she's just in the back, just like, just dealing with all the scheduling and fucking, ad campaigns.
Fry the oil from the fries all over her fucking clothes. She just stinks like fucking stale fries.
She's way past being a fry cook, man.
Yeah, but you walk by it, you're getting splattered.
Hey, man, she's thorough.
You're at least stinking of it.
She's thorough with the quality. She's not going to let people skimp, so she's going to be in there testing.
Yeah, she's training. She's training them. She's training them how to do it.
She's in there. You got to shake the fries. She's shaking the fries for him. You got to shake the fries.
Well, and that's a big part of the portal for the Fae, right? She's got to go from one corner to the other and check in on all these franchises. So that's a big utility with the Greystones, right? So at every Greystone, so it's kind of like when you drive on the freeway and you got the stops. They got the signs with different restaurants that you can stop at. The Greystones, man, they have that at special Greystones. So
could be that the Fae is real quirky, and like there was one Jack in the Box that was super busy. That the lines were just out enormous, but instead of like expanding the size of the building, they just built a second building right next to it. And then a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth.
That's such a ridiculous way to adjust for demand. One has tacos, this one has burgers, but still Jack in the Box. Does it have different specialties?
Yeah.
Oh, did you want chicken fingers? Nah, go 2 doors down, bro.
Yeah. Well, it's like that Taco Bell's at 2 a.m. after you leave the bars, man. The line's out the door.
Ugh, gross.
So, yeah, the Fae at midnight or 1 a.m., people are slamming that.
Gross. Why? Because you don't like Mexican food?
I like Mexican food. I don't like Taco Bell's quality
That does not make any sense.
Oh yeah, they don't correlate.
It's probably the most. It's probably the most popular Mexican restaurant in America.
Oh my god, Mexican restaurant!
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I guess the public has spoken, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a fact. It's
have you ever had their queso, Tim?
That Taco Bell is the best.
Oh,
have you ever had their queso, Tim? It is top notch.
Yeah, I've had their whatever. I've had their cinnamon twist. I've had their everything. But I'm not a kid anymore, man.
It's not even good. I've only had everything on their menu,
dude. I'm not a kid anymore. I can't digest that food, man.
There's not a single other Mexican restaurant where I've eaten everything on their menu. That's how good Taco Bell is.
Why do you keep calling it a Mexican? It's a fast. Get the fuck out of here. The other part of the chapter that is worth mentioning.
Yeah. So and then we get some stuff where when Denna, he tells Denna that he got her a present, and he gives her the tea and the 2 whatever concoctions that she can make to kind of help her breathing. And we get the little nugget, I talked about it when it came up, but when she was drugged, she doesn't remember telling him the things she told him. The things she talked about with him, she does not remember that stuff. So that's the reason I think that's important is it shows, her guard was down and she was telling him things she normally would not tell him. But it also shows, like, when she's spilling the beans there, she's not, it doesn't give the impression that she was trying to manipulate Kvothe in that scenario. It doesn't seem like she was spying on him or trying to manipulate him or screw him over. Because when she was all drugged up and spilling the beans, she's, gives the exact opposite impression. And that's not guile. She doesn't even remember she did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. That's a really important point because without something like that, even with it, I think a lot of people out there probably think she's luring him in, especially given the state that he's in book 3, that it sort of could be felt that way. But yeah, I think that scene in particular definitely makes it clear that, like, no, she's clearly into him and would be willing to, be with him and make this thing, try this thing out. But old Kvothe, he's a little too scared.
Speaking of that, here we go again. He's up in Denna's room, and without a mention of what happened there romantically, because obviously nothing happened. Again.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good point. Like, I mean, they didn't have that back and forth flirty environment. Like, it's the longer it goes without him making a move and stuff, the more firmly it plants him down as one of her friends.
Yeah, that's how it works.
A romantic partner option.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens when people get slid into the friend zone, man.
But I'll bring this up because you say, it wasn't a great time, with the back and forth. But what it did have, the aspect that it did have, was Denna playing the harp for him, and him, blatantly stating that at that point he looked past everything else that he'd ever seen in her, and this was why he was attracted to her more than anything else. It was her playing.
I like this a lot. This whole segment speaks a lot about music and what he talks about, where he's like, speed is not the key. What Marie had done at the Aeolian was amazing, but how quickly you can finger notes is the smallest part of music. The real key is timing. And then Fitz, you should be listening to this. It's like telling a joke. Anyone can remember the words, anyone can repeat it, but making someone laugh requires more than that. Telling a joke faster doesn't make it funnier. As with many things, hesitation is better than hurry. But yeah, then when he goes on and describes... What?
Obviously, I already knew that, Tim. It's not the faster you tell it, it's how well you explain the joke that you just made.
Yeah, that's the key. And you really want to draw it out. That's what he's saying. You really want to draw it out, put a lot of ellipses in there, make it take a while, make them wait for it, then hit them with the lack of a punchline. And then you explain why it should have been funny to them. That really lands super hard.
And follow the explanation up with, see how I did that?
Go the other route, too. You can explain the punchline before you even tell the joke. So, like, here's what I'm going to tell a joke. And the funny part is going to be when I say this. And the reason it's going to be funny is because of that. Now, get ready. Here we go. And then you tell the joke. And then they know when to laugh.
Hang on, guys. I'm writing all this down. So to explain the joke beforehand.
Yeah. So as he's talking about music and going into more detail, he's like, but knowing the notes isn't enough. You have to know how to play them. Speed comes with time and practice, but timing you're born with. You either have it or you don't. Denna had it. And that's what you were talking about. How she moves through the song. She's not plotting. She plays it slow as a luxurious kiss. Not that he knew anything. Not that I knew anything of kissing at that point in my life. But as she stood with arms around the harp, eyes half-lidded, I knew I someday wanted to be kissed with that amount of slow, deliberate care. So yeah, he's getting a little aroused looking at this.
Randy. It's a little Randy.
Yeah. A little Randy.
You don't need experience kissing. Just, lots of tongue all around the mouth, outside of the mouth. That's what women love.
But yeah, it's kind of cool, and it does speak to his character that as she plays, he's kind of accepting her as, I don't know, the unique individual that she is, rather than like being fixated on how she looks and how she smells like dirt and all that stuff that he's so intoxicated with typically. It's interesting to take it that way, like as if he wasn't already into her. He's into her to a further degree here, as he slides himself further and deeper into the friend zone.
Yeah, we also get line where I don't have much to do but practice, and McMoney Pants, Big Jaw Dickerson said, I have a bit of a knack. And he's like, how long have you been at it? I asked. 3-span. She looked thoughtful, then nodded. A little less than 3-span. Mother of God, I said, shaking my head. Don't ever tell anyone how quickly you've picked it up. Other musicians will hate you for it. But like the I have a bit of a knack. Like, yeah, I always pay attention to that because knacks aren't just, it's not like our world. Trip has a knack where every time he rolls 7s, hits a table, he bets on someone 7s every time. So it's more of a magical quality that they don't really control outwardly. It's just part of who they are.
Like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It again, man, this really hints, or it makes me think deeper about her history. There's something to her, man, in terms of her lineage. There's definitely something ingrained in how she has these abilities, how she's so excellent at so many things.
Yeah, it's curious, like, because, obviously we're getting the story from Kvothe's perspective, so we're always in Kvothe's head. But when you kind of step out and you pan out on Denna and what's going on with her, and it seems she's had a similar upbringing. She's a hustler. She's got a lot of skills. She's witty. She's charismatic, and she seems to have an ability to do things at a higher level than a normal person would do.
She also has a lot of knowledge. Like, she knows her theater, and she knows references. Like,
and she's learning magic. She's got a mysterious patron. She has a mysterious agenda. Like, it could be that through the story of Kvothe, where the like ultimate hero figure or the rising star is gonna be Denna, and part of the tragedy for Kvothe is gonna be having to let her go because she's got bigger things that she needs to do, or something along those lines, where she's going to be the heroic figure that sacrifices herself to save everybody. And something along those lines, where we're getting the story of the hero, but we're not getting it from the hero's perspective. We're getting it from Kvothe's perspective, as watching the hero rise.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting as well that, like, the magic she talks about, and I'm not going to skip ahead, but the magic she talks about and she dabbles in, so to speak, is not something we've seen anywhere else.
No.
It's super interesting that it comes from her, because there's already so much coming from her and that she represents. It's kind of comes out of left field almost to a degree that it would come from Denna, because there's so many other sources with Elodin and Kilvin and just all these other characters that you would more expect it to come from. So for it to come from Denna,
well, in that
really
same vein, though,
choice.
Denna's, at least from what we know of the knowledge that is based in the university but spread across the world, the Chandrian are bad. Denna is directly opposed to what those people who could be the potential informational hero, or she's opposed to what they believe, at least as far as the Chandrian go.
But she doesn't mention the Chandrian. She has her songs about Lanre. She just cuts off what happens after the fact. So she doesn't paint the Chandrian in a positive light. She paints Lanre in a positive light. But again, there might be gray to the Chandrian. It might, we might not have the whole picture. Maybe, there's always the possibility that they didn't kill his parents, or they're not responsible for what happened at the Mauthen Farm. I don't believe that's the case, but we don't see it happen. It happens off screen. So there's always that possibility that they're not doing these things. But the fact that they're, dancing on the grave of, his parents, the Kvothe certainly gives the impression that they murdered, and tortured his mom and his dad, and Cinder was the one who played the key role in it. I mean, it's certainly given the impression that they are doing these things, but even if they didn't, they're fucking dancing on the parents' grave, in front of Kvothe. And why would they just show up afterwards and they're just chilling, just chilling, having a fucking talk by the fire in this horror show fucking campsite, and they're just like fucking chilling there.
Yeah, that's the thing. They sidle into horrific events and they're like, see what we did? And they just take credit for it. That's fucking weird. That's super fucking weird. Like that's their thing. They're the Al Qaeda.
Because I mean they were there. We see the signs at the Mauthen Farm, so presumably they were there too. So like why would they just keep showing up like after these horrific events just to like go and chill and hang out and like, man, look at this. That was us. This was weird.
We did it. It was us. We're bad.
Yeah, so they just show up at the end of these events high-fiving. Like, dude, you see that? Oh man, I was so good today.
They're not doing any of it, but they're taking credit for it. And they're like there's this mass murderer walking around getting pissed because the Chandrian keeps stealing his fucking thunder. He's like, God damn it, every time I go and commit a massacre and I think I'm finally going to make it on the big time, going to get on the number one most wanted list, and then the Chandrians show up with their stupid signs and they steal all my glory.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like this hierarchy of murderers, and this guy's just trying to get up the list. This is what he's been going for his whole life. He's like, man, I know I have it in me. I know I can be better than these other guys. These other, Jack the Ripper and John Wayne Gacy. I'm better than those guys, man.
I'm more vicious. I'm more thorough.
Around. They're like, serial killer sidlers. They just kind of sidle up and take the credit for shit after the fact.
They don't even copycat. They just sidle. Cinder sits around at the bar. He's like, "Hey, did you hear about that family that got murdered and raped?"
Well, they learned it from Learned it from.
It was me.
They learned it from old Gray, the great and almighty.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Gray Dalcenti. That's he sidled up and got in with the Chandrian, and then they after a while they started thinking about it, and they're like, that was a pretty slick move you had there. Like, why don't we instead of going around like killing people, like why don't we just wait until massacres happen, and then we'll just sidle up and take the credit for it. We got all these signs. We'll fucking blue flame the shit out of the place, and everyone will think we did it. We don't have to do any of the work.
I love the idea that they pose that to Gray Dalcenti, and he just looks at him, hits his cig, maybe winks, and they're just like, "Yeah, let's do it." He's on board.
He just nods. He winks.
He just tips it. He wears a cowboy hat, obviously. So
obviously,
so he hits his cigarello and then just fucking does a little
tips it.
Tap tip of the cap.
I've been picturing a Kangol hat this whole time.
No, Gray Delson. He's the Lone Ranger, man. Like, of course he wears a Cowboys hat.
Wait, cowboy or Cowboys? He
wears
Cowboys fan?
He wears multiple Cowboys hats.
Wait, but they're all Dallas Cowboys? I'm getting confused.
Multiple Cowboys hats.
Yeah.
He gets them off of Cowboys.
Yeah.
He kills like Cowboys.
When they go and they sidle up and they find a massacre place, he's always rummaging around for cowboy hats.
Ah, he's taking hats. Uh-huh. That's what this dude's doing.
I got it.
He's switching the hats. He's always got the leather duster, but he's just changing the hats.
Yeah.
He's just switching the hats.
I think he's bald.
Okay.
He might be bald underneath or what? Like, why has he always got to get a new hat? Like, what's the deal? Is he
just looks
the
good?
Son or
he looks good?
No, he's a stylist, dude. He's got those tips. He's always got the changing.
Like he wants to be. He likes to go and do one of those moves where he takes his fingers across the rim of the hat in front of it.
Yeah, he's big
does
on
that little
nonverbal
cool,
communication.
like, yeah.
So
A wipe across the front. Does the
Swipes-
cowboy wiper move?
He swipes the bill. Swipe the bill.
Yeah.
a lot of swiping the bill, a lot of flicking
Yeah.
smokes.
It's like the Karate Kid. And they're like, sweep his leg, Johnny. And they're like,
Swipe the bill, Gray.
Sweep the bill, Gray. Yeah.
I don't see him performing though. If somebody asked him to do something, I think he'd flick a cigarette in their eye. Like I'd be like, "Fuck you." No,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I do this shit
That's
when
a good
it's
point.
on me.
Yeah.
But speaking
Yeah.
about awesome images, we do get some really good description and Denna just fawning over the beautiful, sexy ass phalanges of good old Kvothe here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I brought up. Your hands are your hands are soft. I thought the calluses would be rough, but they're not. They're smooth. Yeah, man, he's got them fucking fine ass hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he
Those
wears
gloves
the
are paying
fingerless
off.
gloves.
And she had her hair up, showing off. I guess she's got a super fine neck too, man. She's got that elegant neck, flashing them fucking golden lobes. He's sitting there flaunting them sexy hands, man. It's getting steamy in there.
Mm-hmm. Hands on lobes, man. There's no turning back.
It's so weird picturing these two appendages, like these hands and ears, like
Neck.
it seems very
neck
odd
and
now.
ears and
Is it-
hands.
is it
odd?
Odd because
I
it's
get the
turning you
neck.
on so much, Tim? What is
No,
doing to you?
it's just-
The weird part?
No, just highlighting those things. It's not erogenous at all. Like it's just kind of weird, but whatever. Everybody's got their thing, right?
We get another one of those mentions too of, once her eyes weren't fixed on mine, I regained a small piece of my wits. And, it just takes time, I said. So, again, her staring at him looking into her eyes, it's a similar effect that Elodin has on him. He doesn't talk about it in the same way, but he definitely, stumbles all over himself. I mean, you could read it where it's just, he's just madly in love with this girl, so he gets tripped up looking in her eyes. But it because of the situations where, like, he looks in Cinder's eyes or looks in Elodin's eyes and he gets tripped up, it's noticeable that it keeps happening with Denna.
Well, and I like especially how he words it. It's super simple, but he just says, Denna looked up, gave a shy smile. My mind went blank as fresh paper. Especially for somebody like Kvothe, who, I mean, he's the wittiest dude in this world, damn near. And for something like that, yeah, it's like Denna just has this hold over him.
Yeah, and we get another piece of information on Denna. It's especially going to come up here in the next chapter she's in, when she learns the magic from Kvothe and Will and Sim. But when she rings the bell and they get the hot chocolate, he's like, he isn't eavesdropping. There's another bell downstairs that rings in time with this one. How? She asked, then answered her own question. Magic. You could call it that. Is that the sort of thing you do over there? She jerked her head in the direction of the river and the university beyond. Seems a little tawdry. It's the most frivolous use of Sigaldry I've ever seen, I said. Denna burst out laughing. You sound so offended. She said, then it's called Sigaldry? Making something like that is called artificing. I said, Sigaldry is writing or carving the runes that make it work. Denna's eyes lit up at this. So it's a magic where you write things down, she asked, leaning forward in her chair. How does it work? Reason that's relevant is, now she hasn't seen Master Ash since the Mauthen Farm. And so when they teach her magic in a few chapters, she asked them if they've heard of a magic that you could just write something down and then it happens. Like, you don't have to use, sympathy. There's no principles, like, as far as, bad links, good links, pulling energy from one place, changing the energy. There's none of those aspects to it. It's just you write it down, it happens. Straight up, non-principle type magic. And they dismiss it, and she's like, it's just something someone had told me. Obviously, she was like, it seemed too good to be true. So when she hears about this Sigaldry and her eyes light up, it's because Master Ash has obviously been dangling that he's going to teach her magic, and then he could teach her a magic that you just write down. So he's obviously dangling power in front of her. And then when she hears about the Sigaldry, her eyes light up. She's like, "Oh, it's this, what he's talking about." And then she starts the next time she sees them, she starts digging in a little bit more, trying to figure it out. And then when she hears more about it, then she gets a little disappointed, and she's like, "Oh, he must have been fucking lying to me."
Yeah, it's an interesting, sort of foreshadow, or it's like, yeah, because of her timeline and what we know, what we end up finding out. Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. I like the how she displays, hey, look at this bell, and I get this guy to come run and get stuff for me. It's like two poor kids kind of enjoying something that they never would have had, or they haven't had, for such a long time. I kind of like that thing between them. But yeah, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how her knowledge of this. Yeah, man, I need to know about this patron, man. This whole, like, why he's leading her in these directions, why he's sort of teasing out like he's going to teach her something. I would assume that whole dialogue would be like she's not quite ready for it, but
But you know what? Like when Kvothe talks about in the beginning of the story, he's like, and Bast is like, why didn't you go find Abinthy or something along those lines? And he's like, if the story was, following the typical fairy tale story arc, I would go find the Mad Hermit in the woods, and he would teach me, crazy magics, and then we would go hunt down the Chandrian. Well, she's meeting, and that could be a description of what's happening with Denna, that we're just not getting the on-screen version of it. Like, she meets this crazy old dude who's like fucking beating her and teaching her crazy magic. She bringing her in the woods to the Mauthen Farm when they get massacred. But he's doing awful shit, similar like the masters whip the shit out of him while he's learning magic. But she's being taught things that she wants to know. She's learning from someone who has power, or at least has knowledge, who can teach her how to acquire power. So we can't, that's why I bring up the fact that the story could be that we're just not getting the hero's tale from the hero's perspective. We're getting it from Kvothe, and we're not witnessing the hero's tale, in front of us, even though that very could very clearly be what's happening with Denna.
So are you suggesting though that the stuff that she's learning is different or secret from what Kvothe is learning? I mean, I know that they're not teaching Yellish knots at the, and we're not positive that that's what she's doing with her hair either. But any kind of secret knowledge that that you could write down something and it would come to fruition, which seems like shaping, if I'm not mistaken. But they're not teaching that.
It seems like a totally separate type of magic. Like when we see like the most, I'll go into like shaping. I think we get our only real clear example of it. But it doesn't seem like shaping. But the Yellish knots seem like a written magic. She just ties the knot in her hair, and the person sees it and they think it, and so it can make someone's mind change and make them think things that they normally wouldn't think, or see things they wouldn't normally see. So it's not sympathy, it's not Sigaldry, it's closer to naming or shaping or gramarye or glamory. It's like a fae. It's more of a fae type of magic, old world magic, than this mechanical principled magic where there's a give and a take. It just seems like it's a extremely powerful magic that's more like the Force than, Sigaldry or something along those lines.
It seems to me specifically manipulative towards other humans. And I wonder if Alodin is hinting at it when he says there's 7 words to make someone fall in love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, perhaps. Or that maybe just be this is a Kvothe thing and Alodin's leading Kvothe and hinting, I know things about you. It could just be that. But I like this idea because what you're talking about is a big more overarching idea that I haven't really wholly considered, that Denna is the hero. If that is the case, then this is a massive payoff for Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
It's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even considered it either, but yeah, that's even
like you
more
think
profound.
of like when an artist dies and their art just skyrockets in value. When she sacrifices herself to save the world, like those Jack in the Box franchises are going to explode. They're going to be everywhere.
They'll be charging $7 for those mini tacos.
They keep expanding one right next to each other, so they're just
they'll stack them next.
Going to be there's going to be 100 of them all in a line, but just in one location.
Yeah, but it'll be like paying
busy.
homage to the hero. I mean, people are going just to see, just to pay homage to the hero of this land, of this story.
It's a massive pilgrimage to Jack in the Boxes.
the fast food meccas, man.
Fast food,
fantastic.
Mecca.
She'll live on forever, and they'll just have a plaque of her on the wall, like employee of the month, but it'll be the employee of the century or what have you.
Yeah, but also too, like she doesn't. Another thing that's interesting about this shit is she doesn't know magic, so I think we can rule out that she's grew up in the Fae, or she is a Fae creature, or the moon, or any of these kind of things. Like I think that there's a huge wrench in it, the fact that like she doesn't know magic, and magic is new and surprising to her. So she could be like a descendant of someone very powerful, or someone from the Fae, but I don't think she is, outside of when she goes to work, I don't think she's like, hanging out in the Fae doing powerful stuff.
Yeah, it seems more like she's like Kvothe in that
at least not at this point.
Maybe some of these powers she hasn't learned them yet, but they're still innate in her. I'm not saying that they are, but she definitely has an interest like Kvothe did for all that time.
Yeah, I think it does come from her lineage. It feels like that. So I think that could be something that we end up getting in the future. But I particularly like the situation that's described here. It very much mirrors Kvothe when he's with the mayor. Yeah. She's kind of under lock and key, that whole situation where it's like, well, look at what you've done for yourself. Look at this place, that you're with. And she's like, yeah, but this sucks. I fucking hate this type of thing. They're not my rooms. I'm not free to just come and go as much as I want. And it sort of foreshadows what we'll eventually see with Kvothe and the mayor. It's a really interesting place to put the reader in when we get those situations, because of how he sort of piecemeal gets things that he wants. But he also, he's stuck. There's not a whole lot he can do. And then we do get, Braden, and that puts so much focus on their games, TAC or whatever, and the relationship that they end up having. It creates that focal point to such a great degree, just situationally. So, I like it. I like that he, again, just like he typically does, he gives us a piece of something here that eventually will prepare our minds for the situation that is to come. That's going to be super important in the character arc for Kvothe.
Yeah, and it just like both their arcs mirror each other. It's just, we're not in Denna's head. Like, so for example, like if we were getting the story from Denna's perspective, and then we hear about Alodin getting in a big fight with him, at Haven, and throwing him off a building, and then the masters are, whipping him and shit, and we don't have the inside stories. We're just seeing it secondhand. We'd be like, what why is he sticking around? Like, the masters are like throwing him out of buildings and whipping the shit out of him. And like, what's he doing there? So when we think about like her getting beat by, her patron, you have to keep that in mind. There's a more sinister element to it, in the fact that, he's so secretive that she can't just outwardly say things. But Kvothe, when you ask him about Elodin and his fight with Elodin, like when Fella asks him about it, he just kind of like, oh, well, that's a funny story, and he's very elusive with it and not telling people these things. So like, if you're on an outside perspective, if you're not in his head, you could easily misconstrue. A large part of the book is about like, if you're not in Kvothe's head, you see how badly his stories are misconstrued. So it could easily be the case that, Denna's story is being misconstrued in one way or another.
That's an interesting point because, from the outside looking in, you'd think Kvothe is just like this kind of really strange sadist. Like, he's got all these powers. Why put up with all this shit?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I mean, again, not being in his head. Being in his head, we understand all the forces at play.
And he's got the talent as a musician. Like, he could just be a very talented musician and live a pretty comfortable life as a musician. Like, why is he putting himself through all this shit? Well, we know it's because the fucking Chandrian wiped out his family, and he wants fucking revenge. We don't know what happened to Denna. She's clearly got ambitions, and she's got something bigger going on. We just don't know what happened to her, and we don't know what the ambition is, and we don't know exactly what's going on with the patron. And if we did, we would have a much clearer picture of, what her arc actually is up to this point.
Well, that's a great point, what you say there, too. Think about Threp when he finds out more about Kvothe. It's like, what the fuck's this dude doing studying? Like, you're a musician, man. This is what you should be doing. And then when Kelvin finds out how much money he's able to make at the Elodin, he's like, oh, shit, am I going to lose you now? Both a very rational approach to expect that. But that was kind of when we talked about that, when we were in those chapters, we were sort of, I think we were using Michael Jordan as an example where it's like, this is just my thing I like to do. I'm actually really into
it's my hobby.
Like, no, dude, you're the best ever to do that. Yeah. So again, that's kind of, those are interesting sort of pictures from other people of how they would see it. And then again, looking at Kvothe from the outside, just how kind of surprising he would be as, a character to try to figure out.
And it's I'll just say, because this is kind of new to me. I haven't while we parallel what the way that Kvothe and Denna's life, and while I'm at it, I'm going to digress and say she's got a knack for music. That is one innate, possibly magical qualities that mirrors Kvothe. But I had not thought about what her end goal is, what her end game is. So that's something to ponder.
She wants to get them sexy ass hands, dude.
Yeah,
that's what it is. She just wants them to rub her ears.
She wishes her hands were like Kvothe's hands. She's like, she is, Charlie's uncle.
Charlie's uncle.
She's just really insecure about her hands, and she's always thinking about like, is there a magic where I could like get his hands? And like I could just write down I want his hands, and then he gets my hands, and then we just switch.
Yeah, I do like it goes into greater detail. Kvothe even talks about his father and how he hated the similar situation of being under lock and key or feeling like it. Even when we were playing with Baron Greyfellow, there were wonderful times, and he gives him gifts and all that stuff, but he hated being stuck and couldn't tolerate that feeling. I like how Denna does describe it. If I leave, like staying with Kellen, and being stuck in the room. If I leave, I'm being obstinate and rude, but if I stay, I feel like I'm a dog waiting by the door. So, again, that kind of puts you right in that position where you're like, yeah, that would be a difficult situation to sort of have to deal with.
It should have been the biggest lesson for Kvothe as far as like what Denna wants. Like, like I've said a million times, she wants a partner in crime. She doesn't want someone to take care of her. She doesn't want to feel obligated to someone. She's her own individual person who feels she could take care of herself. She doesn't need anybody else, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't like feeling beholden to someone. So if you're going to approach someone who is like that, you don't approach him with, his thought process is always like, well, if I had money, I could do this for her and I could do that for her. It's not even what she wants. And she tries to make it clear to you. You can't get past the fact that you need to be the hero, and she doesn't want a hero. She feels that she can be her own hero. She just wants a fucking partner.
Yep, and she, I feel like we've talked about it the last couple episodes, but that wanting to move, that can't be tied down between her and Kvothe, both having those feelings of, I got to get up, I got to get out.
Yeah. Ross has been kind of layering that in here, for a good while now. I was going to say, I mean, she kind of, man, she hits him right between the eyes with certain sayings that like would be very kind of revealing to a dude that can see through the bullshit, or not, it's not even bullshit, through his own haze. But he says, well, still, they're nice rooms, after they had this whole thing about being stuck. And she says, they're nice when you're here. So, you could take that, Kvothe. Again, she digs you. You could hang out more. Obviously, he always has trouble finding her and all that shit, but
but instead he spends the next week in the archives and then misses out again because she leaves. Not to jump ahead, but I'm saying this is his chance, and she's dropping this hint.
Well,
that, she doesn't want to be tied down.
And then they see each other pretty quick as far as chapters go. Yeah, a couple span go by, but they see each other again pretty quickly as far as what we read.
That does come back again, though, to what Dan said a moment ago. His mission is to find the Chandrian. And the archives, he thinks still in his mind, that's the key. So, I mean, it'd be nice if, Denna wants to hang out with him. It doesn't seem like he can cover her tuition. But, it's funny they don't talk about that at all. Like, he kind of, every now and again, he's impressed by her mind. And we've talked about it where it's like, maybe she could get in. She goes through admissions and maybe even make that shit happen. That doesn't matter. I mean, it's kind of weird to speculate on, but
yeah. So I mean, that's obviously what she does, but she goes, a different route to acquire magic. She just goes in a completely different direction and acquires completely different magic than him. But she clearly goes and finds magic. She goes and she she's not chasing the name of the wind, but she's chasing magic, and she gets it.
I mean, just imagine, though, if they were spending a hell of a lot more time together and he's being Abinthy to her.
Well, just imagine if they were, like, open and honest with each other.
Yeah.
Instead of this fucking, this dancing around, fucking pussyfooting around everything. If they just fucking open up and be honest with each other, they'd see, like, hey, we're pretty much the same fucking person.
We could get this whole fucking book done in like a matter of two chapters if they just start spilling their guts.
This out if we could just sit them down and be like, look, would you guys just fucking talk to each other except without all this fucking all the frills and fucking goofball shit? Just fucking
all
say
the clever
what
writing
you mean and tell what the fuck's going on.
This is how you guys get your tensionless book that you want so bad, where they can just make it work. Come together, and then boom, boom, boom. Now it's all
cut flower.
What's hilarious to me, though, is like how many people hate Denna, and I'm like, because I love Denna. I love Denna's character, and I'm always like, but I love Kvothe, and the reason I love Kvothe is for the same reasons I love fucking Denna's characters. I mean,
I don't understand. I don't understand how someone would feel that way. That's weird.
What it makes me think is that either they have a vision of how Denna is supposed to be, like as far as how she relates to Kvothe, and she's not playing the role that they want. But like I feel like if you just reverse the situations and you were in Denna's head, you would still have those same. You should still have those same views about Kvothe, because what Kvothe's doing wouldn't make any fucking sense if you didn't know the backstory.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't It's really short-sighted to be like, well, I think of her this way. All right, well, it's not your book.
Yeah,
I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, read
we
the character.
We don't know what the fuck happened to her. Like, if we knew her backstory, it might all make perfect sense. Sure,
I can play devil's advocate on this because we three talk about this enough that you guys have pulled me along. I'm not saying that I would have disliked Denna, but definitely would have misunderstood her and not seen how complex of a character she is and how integral she is to the story. Not just because of how she relates directly to Kvothe being his wanting love, but what you guys have showed me that their characters are mirrored so well. I can see how someone who's reading this a little more superficially wouldn't pick up on that stuff, and so and so they don't like Denna because her character's not that hashed out unless you look at it deeply.
Well, I think a big point also is their break with the Lanre song, and that's such a jarring moment for how you conceptualize the two of them and their relationship with that moment. But I think what Dan's bringing up is so key. Consider how she sees Kvothe. Consider what he looks like with looking at the back of the baseball card of just the statistics of what she knows about him versus the way he talks. It's a difficult. He's a conundrum, man. He's a weird one to try to figure out when you consider the things that she would be hearing about him, and then how they're tugging
she's hearing him like fucking calling lightning and setting dudes on fire and calling a demon wind to fuck up Ambrose, and right in front of the Aeolian where there's witnesses that saw him call a demon wind. Witnesses saw it, a demon wind. Well, she's hearing crazy stories.
Even that aside, she listened to him play the Lay of Circavian Trelliard. Like just those accomplishments of what he's able to do to a room with music is like this motherfucker. But you take it up to notches of like what you're talking about and those types of things, man. How do you wrap your mind around this dude?
She's got enough. She's like Kvothe in that she's very, doubting of the fantastical fucking stories. She doubts the veracity of them. So, like, if she hears he called a demon wind, but there's so many witnesses saw it, so many people say it, it would still put that, that doubt, that it would put that doubt in your head where you'd be like, well, maybe it's true, maybe he did. He's got some kind of powers.
And she's also right now touching his hands. Rubbing those calluses. They're real. Those aren't fake. Those are real hands.
Yeah,
I had to be sure. I had to make sure.
Pull the skin off of his hands and drape it over hers.
Jesus. She don't wear his hands as gloves.
Go Hannibal on her?
She wants, instead of fingerless gloves, she wants Kvothe fingers. Finger skins.
Kvothe finger gloves?
Finger skin gloves.
Finger skin gloves. There is
the
actually
Dracus too. Her knowing she saw the Dracus, she knows that Kvothe took care of it. So there's another aspect that she actually does have a little more knowledge of.
Well, shit, man, and he shows up when she just got knocked. She almost got murdered at the Mauthen Farm. She's sitting in a room by herself. Who shows up? Fucking Kvothe. Like, it's insane. I mean, it's you. This guy's got powers. How's this possible? How are these things possible?
But she
all right. Speaking to that,
she doesn't see his powers until a few chapters, and then she sees it. She sees him do magic, and then eventually he calls the name of the wind when she's having an asthma attack. So it's later on that she starts to see, like, okay, this motherfucker is a magician. He is a wizard.
But I mean, showing up in those moments, that's kind of otherworldly.
Oh yeah,
type of thing. But so here's a theory for you. Kvothe is an automaton. He talks about feeling like an automaton every now and then. And in this scene with her, she asked if he would like something to drink. He said, "That would be very kind of you." I said, purely on reflex. I realized my hand was still hanging stupidly in midair, and I let it fall to my side. He's an automaton. That's all you need.
Learning how to love.
So you think that when the chocolate came up, Kvothe just threw it in his face and was like, "This is delicious."
Yeah. You're supposed to
I'll flesh
pour
it
it down
out.
your mouth,
I'll
not
piecemeal
just throw it
my
in your
evidence.
face.
He's just rubbing it all over his face.
Yeah.
I love the idea of, like, what if he poured it in his hands, rubbed his hands, he's like, "That's how you get these."
Yeah.
That's how. So then Denna's like, "Oh, okay."
Chocolate.